Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webcast where you'll hear about the latest 2016 courseware updates from ASCENT. Presenting today, we have Paul Burden, Rhonda Wiley, and several of ASCENT's Autodesk Official Training Guide authors. I'll now pass things over to ASCENT's Business Development Manager, Rhonda Wiley. Rhonda, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Karine, and hello, everyone. And we'd just like to thank you for spending some time with us today just to get an update on our 2016 release schedule. We have a lot going on, a lot that's available already, so we're excited to show that to you. So as Karine mentioned, I'm joined today by Paul Burden, who is our Director of Product Development, as well as several members of his team who are authoring our titles. So we wanted to provide you the opportunity to hear directly from the source where the content's coming from. And as Karine also mentioned, at the end of the presentation, we'll give you a chance to ask questions of our team as well. So again, this year, ASCENT is the sole provider of the Autodesk Official Training Guides. And a few months ago, our team began working with the 2016 beta versions and tracking the updates to those as the release progressed. And to get head start on the development process, our end goal is always to provide you some lead time to begin reviewing the new material and prepping for your classes. So that's why we really push hard to have the core titles, the fundamentals level titles available as soon as that software is released, and we had several ready this year as well. Over the course of the coming year, our team that you'll be hearing from will be releasing over 60 titles, which is a lot. So we're very excited about what's to come as well. But also by investing in more of the advanced and specialized titles, we can give you more of a single source solution for AOTG courseware. So that's kind of our goal going into this. And with that brief overview, I'll turn it over to Paul and his team to tell you more about the new titles.
Thanks very much, Rhonda, and good day, everybody. So once again, I'm Paul Burden. I'm the Director of Product Development for the ASCENT team, and I've got a great team of authors working with us here to develop the Autodesk training guides, and we're fortunate to have 4 of them with us today. You'll hear from these 4 ladies over the course of the webcast. We have Renu Mathu, who looks after some of our AutoCAD courses, as well as 3ds Max. We have Martha Hollowell, who looks after all of our Revit courseware. Jennifer McMillan on the manufacturing side looks after our Inventor courseware. And Michelle Rasmussen looks after all of our civil and infrastructure-related training material. The format for the webcast today is similar to what we've done around this time last year and the year before for those releases. What we'll do is we'll just highlight the different product categories, give you some insight into what's released already for the 2016 version, and then as well some insight into our release schedule for the upcoming titles. And then I'll ask each of the authors for their products to jump in and give you a little bit of an overview of some of the changes that you can expect to see in the 2016 versions with new features or changes to some of the content that we've made. So with that, I'll get started with the AutoCAD related titles. On each of these slides where we list out the 2016 titles, you'll see a number of them that are highlighted in the red color. Those are the titles that have been released already for the 2016 version. So you can see we've got a good start here on the AutoCAD titles with our update and fundamentals level courses already available for this version. The fundamentals titles, of course, are available as a full 40-hour course, or we offer them in 2 parts as well with the essentials and beyond the basics. Also on these slides, you'll see a column, the second column from the left indicates the units of the training material. For the AutoCAD titles we have listed here, we offer 2 versions for most here. We have a mixed option, which for that version of the fundamentals course, for example, will include both imperial and metric units in the practice exercises that are included. And then we have a dedicated metric version of those titles as well. The duration or the length column that you see here refers to the suggested time for an instructor-led delivery of these classes. So typically our full fundamentals course for AutoCAD is a 40-hour or 5-hour training course that's offered by many of the ATCs that use this material. For the titles that are still to come, you'll see down at the bottom we have our AutoCAD Advanced and AutoCAD 3D Drawing and Modeling. So you can see in the final column on the right-hand side the time frame that we have listed for the release of those titles. You'll see the mixed units version of the AutoCAD Advanced course is due out this month. In fact, we're just getting that one wrapped up, so that'll be out in the next week or two. And then the last one that I have listed down at the bottom here is the AutoCAD Raster Design Essentials book for 2016. That one we have slated right now for an October release, so October 2015. And I'm going to invite Renu Matthew in now just again to give you a little overview of some of the changes that you'll see in the AutoCAD courses that we've released so far. Renu?
Hi, welcome everyone. And so this year, the AutoCAD 2016 software has quite a number of enhancements and new features. So the first is the Start tab, which replaces the new tab from last year. So now this Start tab is always available as the first tab in the Files tab bar, and it enables you to open the initial Start window anytime by clicking on it. Then is the status bar that has been updated. If the displayed icons in the status bar do not fit in a single row, the status bar now automatically wraps into 2 rows to accommodate all the icons. Then we have the preview of erase, scale, stretch, and rotate commands. And for these editing tools, a preview before committing is displayed. So selected objects turn into light gray, indicating their selection before completing the command. And how the editing is going to look is displayed along with the cursor as a regular color. So next slide, please. So then we have the Polyline Center OSNAP, this new OSNAP. It finds the geometric center of any shaped closed polyline, and that center is referred to as the centroid. Then we have the text frame for mtext command, and now you can add a text frame to an already created mtext. If you open the properties palette, there is an option for text frame with the options like yes and no. You can choose whichever you want and have a text frame or not. Then the dim command or the dimension command. The biggest change this year has been the dimension command, and it is an intelligent command now. So when this command is active and you hover your cursor over an object, it displays its relevant dimension automatically. For example, if you place your cursor over a linear object, a linear dimension is displayed. Then if you move the cursor over a circle, the radial dimension is displayed. So depending on the object encountered, it adjusts the dimensions automatically. Moreover, you do not have to exit the command now, but in a single dimension command, you can dimension multiple objects quickly and very efficiently. Then the XREF layers. Now the software, it clearly distinguishes between the layers that come from reference drawings and layers that reside within the active drawing. So in the layer control, when you open it, the XREF drawing layers are grayed out. So these are some of the main changes that have been incorporated in the AutoCAD LT 2016 Fundamentals Training Guide this year. Thank you.
Great, thanks Renu. And we'll have Renu back in just a few minutes to talk about a couple of the other titles that she works on. So again, in highlighting some of these changes and updates that you see listed here, particularly if you're an instructor using these training guides and you've been using them in previous versions as well, this will you'll expect to see wherever these tools and features are used throughout the training guide, some updates to address some of the new ways these tools are used and the new features and options that are available with them. Next up, I'll move over to the Building and Architecture category where all of our Revit titles are listed. And once again, the titles that are highlighted in red, so the Revit Architecture Fundamentals and the Revit Structure Fundamentals, these titles have been released already for the 2016 version. Those are available today and have been for several weeks now. Next up will be our Revit MEP fundamentals, which we have slated for release later this month, so in the next couple of weeks we'll have that one releasing, and then following that we'll be switching back to the metric versions of both the structure fundamentals and the Revit MEP fundamentals. So again, with most of these titles for Revit, we do produce two versions, the Imperial version and the metric version. In each of those cases, all of the exercises, all the practice exercises, the data sets will have the either the Imperial or the metric units involved. The other titles that we have listed up above here, we call them our Revit platform titles, and the reason being is that they cover all three verticals typically. So titles like the Revit BIM management, collaboration tools, and Revit for project managers, each of those training guides have topics related to architecture, MEP, and structure, and typically we'll have exercises within those training guides that will focus in on each of those different verticals. So those are slated for release later, starting later this summer. We'll have the Revit BIM management that focuses on template and family creation is slated for August and September releases, and then over the fall we'll have the collaboration tools and project managers courses available as well. And I'm going to bring in Martha Hollowell now. Again, Martha is our primary author for all of the Revit titles, and she can give us a little bit of an overview of some of the changes we can expect to see in the courses for the 2016 version.
Thanks, Paul. So I do want to, first of all, say our Revit 2016 book is also going to include updates that came in with Revit 2015 R2. If you're on the subscription, you probably already got that and have it in your system, but we want to go ahead and make sure everyone knows that they are there. So we included all of those updates. As always with Revit, you're going to have multidisciplinary enhancements, architectural enhancements, structural, and MEP enhancements. So let me just tell you about a few multidisciplinary ones. There are now search boxes all over everywhere. You can see it there in the properties example here. Anytime you have a drop-down, there are searches, and so we have gone ahead and utilized those in our book and in our practices to help you find things. I mean, I've loved it. As I am working along, I've used these search boxes a whole lot. So, of course, that's available with any of the disciplines. You've got a couple of other things that you're going to find, new revisions. The dialog box has been really enhanced. There's a lot of improved performance that we can't necessarily write in the book, but you're going to see as you're working through with Revit. Another really cool item is the new section box. You can see there in the structural example here. It's a new command to create these partial parts of the model, so you can work in just one floor of a multi-story model or something like that. Great tool, again, used by everybody. A couple of architectural enhancements. I've got a little picture here of a perspective view, and the best thing, you can now move, align, pin and unpin elements in perspective views. It used to be you couldn't do much. You had to go and switch back to a parallel view and then back, and you weren't necessarily getting the objects you wanted. But now there are a number of commands that you can do within perspective views. You also have place rooms automatically. MEP had that with spaces. Now it's available in architecture. And as we go along with our books, we're going to include a lot of the improved energy analysis tools and information about rendering engines as well. For structural enhancements, there are a number of parameter fields that have been updated and make it so much better when you are annotating and scheduling in your structural program. Truss cords, you can choose how a truss works when various items, parts of the truss are rotated. There are also updates to the loads and analysis. For example, you can put area loads on an arc wall. It used to be you could only do that on a straight wall. So again, a number of updates that are very easy to work with. MEP has, of course, various performance enhancements, all the other things that are multidisciplinary. One really cool thing that it has that we're adding into our electrical part is you can move circuits without disrupting other circuits. And it used to be if you needed to move that, then it would, you'd have to go and fix all your other circuits as well. There's now a new tool for that. But what I really want to focus on with MEP is some of the changes to our book. So first of all, we have been working on reconfiguring the practices for quite a number of years, or not a couple of years, maybe two, where we've divided up the topic, practice, topic, practice. And I'm doing it much more, working on it much more in our MEP book this year. And you will see two new chapters or two majorly revised chapters early on in the book that'll help MEP users get up and running and using some simple tools right away so that they know how, what they need to get into before they move into our bigger project. So that's one really big thing, and when I was reconfiguring the practices, realized that that needed to happen. Another big part is I am cleaning up where there's overlap. And if you've been using MEP for very long, you know that HVAC systems, piping systems, plumbing systems, and things like conduit and cable trays for electrical all work exactly the same. And so I was trying to figure out how best to present this, and one of the things that I realized was that hydronic piping is really part of your mechanical, your HVAC kind of area. So I've gone ahead and joined those two chapters together, but then I went ahead and split them again because they were getting kind of long. Chapter 8, we now are going to cover mechanical equipment used by both parts, air terminals. Then here's the new part, ducts and pipes. So how you get all those ducts and pipes in, all the various tools that you can do that. And then Chapter 9, and these numbers may change, but we have creating the duct and hydronic pipe systems and then the automatic layouts, because they are done exactly the same. And in this case, you really don't need to have two separate chapters repeating the exact same thing. And so in this case, I will probably be doing a bit more in the plumbing chapter, making sure that all the things are covered again. So if you are teaching this class and you are not teaching it to all disciplines, then you can just jump right on into plumbing or right on into electrical without having to go through the HVAC options. So that's going to be the big items for this year with MEP and architecture and structure.
Great. Well, thanks, Martha. And once again, if you're an instructor of these titles, in particular the Revit MEP fundamentals, then this is certainly something that you're going to want to be aware of, the reconfiguration of this content and the practices, so that when you go into that first class with the 2016 training guides, you're familiar with where things have moved around and been reorganized. Next up, I have the infrastructure and plant category. So in here, of course, we have our Civil 3D titles, and for the fundamentals for Civil 3D 2016, we do have our imperial and metric versions of those training guides available. Those were released earlier this month. And next up in this category will be the the InfraWorks training guide. So InfraWorks 2016 fundamentals we have slated for release in July, and then some of our other civil titles, Civil 3D for surveyors and Civil 3D grading, we'll have coming out a little later in the fall. As for plant, again, we have two versions of our Introduction to Plant Design training guide, one with imperial units and the other is our mixed metric version. Those, again, are slated for release in the fall in October-November timeframes for both of those titles. I have with us Michelle Rasmussen, who's the author of the Civil and InfraWorks titles, so I'm going to ask her to speak a little bit about those. Michelle?
Thanks, Paul. So you'll notice with Civil 3D, the biggest changes have happened within surfaces. And so starting out, you can actually create a solid surface out of a tin surface. So basically taking that Civil 3D surface that's a tin model, a triangular irregular network, turning that into a 3D solid. And there's a couple of things that you need to understand when you're doing that. You can set the vertical definition, meaning you can have it be a specific depth, or you can have it go to a fixed elevation. So basically the bottom of that 3D object would end up being flat. Or the third option, which I think is the most beneficial option, is creating that depth according to another surface. So if you've gone out and you have done a soils test on the site and you've created the different soil depth surfaces, then you can create a 3D solid and be able to show how deep that granite is, or how deep the topsoil is, or any number of things. So that's a really nice feature. As you're doing that, when you create this 3D solid, you can have it go in the current drawing, or you can have it actually go into a brand new drawing. And you can tell it what layer to be on and what color to be on. So you'll be able to see that in the fundamentals course as well as the survey course. When you start working with your surfaces, you'll be able to actually create a 3D model from the surfaces you create in the class. And then, of course, you also have the option to create surfaces from point clouds. And if you happen to watch my webcast last month where I talked about working with point clouds in AutoCAD 2016, that webcast was specifically on AutoCAD functionality. So you have all of that functionality that I talked about in that webcast, with the addition in Civil 3D to be able to create a surface, a Civil 3D surface from those point clouds. And when you're doing that, you can actually take care of points that don't fall at ground level. So what do you do when it's, you know, points on top of a tree or a car that it caught or whatever the case might be? You have some different options that you can use to filter out those non-ground level points. Next up is our InfraWorks title. And so, Paul, if you'll change slides for me, thank you. Next is InfraWorks. In InfraWorks, there's a lot of really exciting things happening in InfraWorks. If you remember from the 2015 course, we actually introduced bridge design and drainage design and roadway design in that course. But in 2016, we're actually going to go a little bit more in depth, because with bridges, we're able to go in and edit girders and edit girder groups. And so you'll be able to learn how to go and do those edits. Also with drainage, you're going to go a lot more in depth. You're going to learn how to automate the creation of drainage pipes for roadways. And you'll use rule sets for your pipes, your inlets, and your manholes. So it'll automatically set those at the right height. And then finally with drainage, you'll be able to run quantities to help you estimate the cost of the design. So those are exciting things. The thing that I got most excited about, though, are the changes to the roadway design. And this is something that I've been, hoping and wishing for since roadway design came out inside of InfraWorks. Now you can finally take a planning road, or what we've been calling the sketch roads in the course, and you're able to convert that into a design road and add those design parameters like the tangent length and the curve radius and all of those specific things that you do when you're designing roads. You're also able to set what side of the lane or what side of the road you're driving on. So now, before you even start designing roads inside of InfraWorks, you'll be able to tell it if you're driving on the left side of the road or the right side of the road, and you'll have a lot more intelligent information to help you design the intersections and set the turning points or turning directions in the intersections. And then finally with roadway design, there's a lot more complex roadways that you can import from Civil 3D, and so you'll learn how to do that inside of the course. Another great thing that I love is the fact that you can bring in animated objects now. So the beautiful thing about InfraWorks is it's so realistic. You're designing in the environment, and you're able to present that design to the public, and they can actually see what you mean when you say, oh, you're going to have an intersection here, and it's going to be a better design, or whatever the case might be. They don't have to take your word for it. They can actually see it now. And being able to add those animated objects from Kaleida formats you can actually show them what's happening, you know, with the lights, or you can show them, if you're designing wind farms, you can show them the wind turbines actually moving. It just gives it a much more realistic view when you can actually add that motion in the model. So it's exciting to do that. Another great thing that I love is, you know, Model Builder, they've had it in preview mode for the last year or so, and it's now finally released. And so in the course, we'll actually take you through creating a new model just by searching for an area, the area where your project is. And it'll automatically go out and find that GIS information that's available in that area, and it'll create a model for you from that information. So that'll be introduced in the, at the very beginning of the course. And finally, I'm sure you guys have been wanting this, the network drive capabilities. You can now share your models through a network drive. Unfortunately, we can't demonstrate this in the course, but it is going to be introduced at least so that you can start working across a network and sharing your information with team members without having to, you know, go up to the cloud every single time. So that's everything inside Civil 3D and InfraWorks.
Great. Thank you very much, Michelle. I know we've got a number of clients that are looking forward to some of the new content here for the InfraWorks title. As Michelle mentioned there earlier on in her discussion, she has done several webcasts recently on some of the civil topics. In fact, all of our authors on the call today are active in presenting webcasts on various topics related to the courses that they develop. In fact, all of them have presented at AU recently as well. So if any of the voices sound familiar, that's probably why. Let me move over next to our visualization and review category. Here we have 3 titles, starting with Autodesk 3ds Max up at the top. We have that slated for August release, as well at the bottom here, the Navisworks title. So Navisworks 2016 Essentials we have coming out in August. And then the third title here is Autodesk Showcase Fundamentals 2016. We have that one scheduled for release in September. I'm going to invite Renew back once more. Renew also authors our 3ds Max title, so she can give you a little bit of insight as to what's coming in the 2016 version of that title. Renew?
Thank you, Paul. So this year the major thing is that 3ds Max is now a single software version. Previously, you could choose between 3ds Max and 3ds Max Design, and these were specifically geared towards different industries. This year, both these flavors of Max have been consolidated into one, and it has been just the base 3ds Max 2016. So it is to eliminate the confusion which users used to have about which flavor is good and which flavor is better for them. So to eliminate that's been done. So I think it's a great idea to have them together. So now it can be used by anybody belonging to any industry. So because nowadays the lines between the tool sets used in different industries, it's blurring. And so this new consolidated version caters to one and to all. Like in any industry, you can use this new version. So now the new features in 3ds Max Design. So first of all, it's the 3ds Max, sorry, not in Design anymore. So there is this predefined templates. So in the startup screen, when you start the software for the first time, the startup screen comes up, and it has the startup templates now, and these can be used for common workflows. These templates can be used to create your own complete scenes along the lights and animations already set in. So you can use your own model and using one of those templates showcase an animation. This is an easy and an effective way to create scenes and animations without spending hours on setting the options. So this is great for new users. So you need not be a 3ds Max Pro to use these templates and create animations. But at the same time, it can be very useful for the experienced users as well, as they can create fast and quick scenes and animations without spending hours on setting the settings for animations and lights and so on and so forth. So the next one is the physical camera. A new physical camera has been added which has all the real world settings, and it's an extremely easy tool to use now. Then the workflow-based ribbon has been provided, and these majority of tools, they have been grouped together to have those into a workflow-based ribbon. And these give you access to the most commonly used tools that are appropriate for that particular workflow. So it's easy to find. Out of thousands and thousands of tools, it's very easy to find the tools that you are going to be using in that ribbon. Then the pre-selection highlighting. This is a really good feature. So when you hover your cursor over the objects in the scene, they get highlighted. So this indicates what object you are selecting and what object you are about to select. So this makes it easy. If you have a scene on the screen which has thousands of objects in there, it's very easy to see which object you are pinpointing. So before selection, this pre-selection highlighting is a great tool to use. Then we have the missing texture maps. Everybody must have encountered those. So this is pretty common in Macs. So whenever somebody sends you a scene or something, it's always possible that it would give you missing textures because they didn't send the textures along with the scene. So previously, it would take hours to fix these. So now this dialog box comes with a magic button, which is called the Remove All button, and you just click on that, and all the missing textures are gone. I really love this feature. And then we have the Max Creation Graph, which is a new feature, and it's node-based interactive tool. This can be used to create your own tools. So anybody who's creative can go in and create a tool in Max. So no constraints about what tool is in there. So these are the main features which we will be incorporating into our 3ds Max 2016 Fundamentals Training Guide.
Great. Thanks very much again, Renu. Next category coming up here is our manufacturing category, and this is where we have all of our Inventor titles. And once again, we've got a couple of titles that have already been released for the 2016 version, starting with our Introduction to Solid Modeling. And this is our fundamentals level course. It's typically delivered as a 5-day course. All of our Inventor titles, with the exception of the last two on the list here, all of these titles have mixed units, so again, a combination of metric and imperial throughout. The two exceptions are the two at the bottom, cable and harness design and tube and pipe design. We offer those in the metric versions. So the other title that is released already is the Advanced Part Modeling. That's a 2-day or 16-hour course in the instructor-led version. We've got another couple that are going to be out before the end of this month. Those are the Advanced Assembly Modeling course, as well as one called Inventor for Experienced 3D CAD Users. And this one is a new one that we added within the last year or two. It's basically a compressed version of the Introduction to Solid Modeling, and it's really geared at people that are coming from other 3D CAD systems over to Inventor. So they have 3D solid modeling experience in other CAD packages, so this gives them kind of an accelerated course that they can use to go through the fundamentals level topics for Inventor. The other products that we have in this category include the AutoCAD Electrical titles up at the top. The AutoCAD Electrical is offered in 2 versions depending on the standards that you're using. The first is the NFPA standard, which is typically the one used in North America. That training course, or that version of the AutoCAD Electrical Fundamentals, is coming out later this month as well. And then the IEC version of the course, which again is usually the standard used outside of North America, that one we'll have coming up next month in June. And then finally, we have AutoCAD Mechanical in this group as well. So the Essentials course for AutoCAD Mechanical we have scheduled for release in July. So first up, I'm going to invite Jennifer McMillan, who authors all of our Autodesk Inventor titles, to come on and speak to you a little bit about some of the changes to expect in those courses. Jennifer.
Great, thank you, Paul. So the way that I've kind of broken up what I wanted to talk about was focusing really on the courses. So introduction, advanced part, and advanced assembly. And for you instructors that are on the call today, I really want to focus you on, what's new in the book and how the enhancements in the software are going to affect those books. So just starting off with the Introduction to Solid Modeling book, that's one of the books that are available right now. I really overhauled the first 5 chapters of this book, and the main focus in doing that was really to streamline how it's being taught to the students. So as an instructor, you definitely want to review that material to be sure that you're familiar with it before you get into your first class. Some of the changes I made were I got rid of repetitive discussions on workflow. So we talked in previous versions, I really talked a lot about the sketch feature workflow, and I repeated it probably 3 or 4 times through those chapters. And now what I did was I taught it once, and then I referred back to it as I went through, but I really talked about what was different or what an addition they needed to be successful as they went. So some examples would be when we got to secondary sketch features, I really spoke of what's different so that you can select an existing plane and some of those tools. An existing face, sorry. I broke out some discussions on entities and editing tools and dimensions and constraints so people would focus directly on those tools. And all of the exercises that are in those chapters support all of that information. So there weren't too many changes to the exercises, but it really will help solidify the students' knowledge as we went through that. In addition, in this course, the other big change was the drawing environment. So in the later chapters, so I think it's around chapter 25 or so when we get into talking about view creation, they're going to see the new tools. So here I've got 2 images here. On the left-hand side, one of the big ones is that you can now create a drawing directly from an assembly or a part. So right here, this model browser that I'm displaying is a part model, and if I right-click on the part node at the top, I can create a new drawing. And then it offers you the selection of what template you want to pull in, and you can go from there. And once you're in there, this view on the right-hand side, the drawing view dialog box has completely changed as well. And they've really streamlined this. So what they've done is they've removed all of the view orientation commands that are in this dialog box. And they moved all of that directly onto the canvas or onto the drawing sheet. So that image that I have on the right-hand side, you can see is a model. It has the view cube in the top right corner. And you can see here, this is how I'm going to manipulate my orientation completely. So it's consistent with how you orient your model in a part or an assembly model as well. So I love this. I think it's very intuitive. And all of the exercises throughout the drawing environment support learning all of this. And so I would say those are the major changes in the Introduction to Solid Modeling course. Again, really, if you're an instructor, be sure to review the material in the first opening chapters for sure. Advanced part modeling, this is where the majority of changes came in as I was working through this course, and they all kind of fell into the end of the book. So you can see I've kind of got some chapter numbers listed here, and all of really the major changes are all at the end of the book. So I'm sure if you've heard of some of the changes in Inventor, one of the big ones is what they're calling AnyCAD. So they are giving lots of methods and tools to import CAD software from other vendors, and they've really streamlined this approach. So there used to be a really complex import dialog box, and now they've really streamlined it, made it quite simple to use. So basically starting at chapter 11, I'm talking about this dialog box and then how to import your model. So the big thing here is whether you choose by reference or by convert. So by reference is that AnyCAD, where you can bring a software product like CATIA, the model, open it inside of Inventor, And then, in fact, it maintains that reference with the source CAD data. So if I went back to a CATIA, made a change, it would reflect in Inventor. So I have an exercise actually just like what I've explained with the CATIA model in the course so they can see that, the connection between the two software products. And then we also do a convert as well, where it's very consistent with what was done last year. It's just we use the new dialog box. And in that chapter, we also talk about all the editing options once you've imported your data. So not by reference, but by convert. You can use the base solid conversion or editing tools as well as direct edit. And in direct edit, that was new last year, they've also incorporated scaling into that. So that also has been added into the training guide. Chapter 12, this was pretty much a chapter that was a little earlier in the book, and what I did was I moved it a little later in the book once they've learned about the import tools. So before I found that I was talking about import twice, and really it's all the same information. So once they've imported an actual solid model, then we talk in the next chapter, chapter 12, about importing specific surfaces. And all of the repair environment is all included in that chapter. And there's a couple new exercises that are also been included in there. So as an instructor, be sure to review this material. Chapter 13 is a completely new chapter that I've added, and I'm calling it Working with AutoCAD Data. And basically what this incorporates is the ability to open AutoCAD data or an AutoCAD drawing file directly in Inventor, whether it's just opening it by import or open. And then also the third technique is the new in 2016, which is opening an associative DWG. And these two images that I have here of this model, this is what I've used here. So I've basically imported a drawing file onto a work plane, and from that drawing file, which is in this side, it's the black lines, from that drawing file, I've actually projected geometry directly onto some solid geometry. And then I can create the holes in this case directly from the DWG file. And if that DWG file in AutoCAD updates, it updates in the model as well. So there's a whole exercise included on that in that chapter. And then the final chapter in the book is freeform modeling, which is my favorite. I had so much fun with this one. Last year, Paul was mentioning some of us taught at AU. I actually taught a freeform class, and the enhancements in this tool are incredible. This year they've added so many different things. They've so much so that they actually had to add a new tab. So the freeform tab is a new tab now that's on in the Inventor environment. You can see all the commands right here, where before it was really just a panel. And what I've done in that chapter is really taught all the new tools. And the most exciting for me, and what I have here shown in the image, is probably the ability now to convert solid geometry to a freeform surface. Okay, so once you've done that, then you can then further manipulate it using those freeform tools. So what I did here is added an additional exercise. All the other exercises stayed the same, but this additional exercise, the design intent I took with this is that I had a bottle. Basically, I knew the parametric constraints on the size of the bottle, the size of the lid, all those things. So that was all parametric, and I needed to maintain that size. And then from there, what I did was I took that surface that was parametrically constrained and I converted it to freeform to create a very creative handle for that bottle. Like I didn't have any constraints on the handle, it just had to look good. And so this tool really worked well for me here to incorporate some kind of freeform, holistic kind of surfacing tools here. So those were the major changes in the advanced part. So the majority of my time updating these books is definitely spent here. Advanced Assembly is slated also for release this month, so it's just in the editing stage right now, so I have worked through the whole book. The biggest change in this book was really with Inventor Studio. Not many changes other than this. And what they've done now is they've brought in lighting styles that are now associated with IBLs, which are image-based lighting. So along with an image, it includes some lighting specifically with each of those lighting styles. And the dialog box that I have shown here on the left shows all the global lighting styles that are provided directly with Inventor. So those are all predefined styles that you can use. And with that as well, then you can assign that to your model and you can use a new rendering engine. So Rapid RT is the new rendering engine that they're using with Inventor Studio. And with this one, what I really like is some of the additional controls you have while rendering. And if you see over on the right-hand side, I have the render image dialog box. And my favorite has to be the render duration, because sometimes just letting it go for whatever certain length of time maybe isn't enough. So I really like this until satisfactory. So basically what I did with some of these images that I've shown here, I just enabled the until satisfactory. I could start rendering it. And in fact, it lets you stop the rendering and restart it again. So really like the ability to do that. And then, excuse me, these two images that I've shown here were just basically used with the default lighting styles, and I've just imported them. Some of the additional kind of pre-set up to Inventor Studio has been moved out onto the view panel. So now you can control the ground plane, reflections, and shadows all out at the view level, so at the view panel level. So you can set up all that stuff out there. So it is quite streamlined. And the exercise that goes with this has been updated as well to reflect all these new changes. So not a lot of changes in the Advanced Assembly book, but definitely review this chapter. And that's what I have, Paul.
Great, thanks, Jennifer. And once again, I'm going to have Renew come back. This time, talking about AutoCAD Electrical. Renew takes care of some of the specialized AutoCAD courses like electrical and mechanical as well. So Renew, if you want to give us a little update on what's happening with this training course.
Thanks, Paul. Again, to start with the Start tab, it's very similar to what we had in AutoCAD 2016 because AutoCAD Electrical it's based on AutoCAD 2016. So the Start tab is the same, and which means that it is persistent now, and it allows you to open the initial start window anytime you want. Then we have the Project Manager palette, and there has been a major change in this year. So it has two tabs, which is the Project tab and the Location View tab. So the Project tab, it displays the projects and the drawings in a tree structure, and it remains the same as it was in 2015. But the Location View tab, it is new in 2016 now. And what it does is it displays all the information about connections and components in a project. And all the devices that are in the project are displayed in this tab. So you can also display all the related information to the components, and also surf to a dialog box which displays the component references as well as their locations as to where you can find them in the drawings. So it's a great tool that you can use, the Project Manager Location View tab. Then the second, another update this year was that in the multiple insert command. So in multiple insert component command, using this command, you can, after you insert the first component, then in the subsequent components, you can now choose whether you want to hide or unhide the tags, and hide and unhide the installation and location codes. So this comes in handy because when you have a very big design and you have a lot of components which looks very crowded because of this repeated information. So at that time what you can do is you can choose to hide those tags and hide the installation and location codes. But for the first component, it's always displayed there. So you do not need to have them with each and every component during the multiple insert command. Then we have the Insert Connector dialog box, and its default settings have been changed so that it now maintains the last settings that you had set. So, whatever you set previously, that becomes the default settings when you open it again. so that you don't actually have to go and set every time you open it. So whatever the previous settings were, they become the default settings this year. So these were some of the features that are included in the AutoCAD Electrical 2016 Fundamentals Training Guide, along with many other features and updates have been added as well. And as with 2015, I had changed some practices to replicate the real-world scenarios. So following that same strategy, some of the practices in the training guide this year have also been modified and to show how they will look in actually a real world. So these are the main changes and the features to the AutoCAD Electrical 2016 Fundamentals Training Guide this year. Thanks.
That's great. That's great. Thanks, Renu. And thank you also to Martha, Michelle, and Jennifer for giving us those highlights. And again, if you're an instructor using any of these training guides, we always recommend that you take a look at the updates that we made to the latest version, in this case, the 2016 release of the Autodesk official training guides, just so that you're familiar with any changes or reorganization that we've done to any of the training guides for the new release. I've got a couple more categories here that I'll just highlight some of the release dates coming up for these. First, the data management category, where all of our vault titles are located, and we're planning on getting going with the vault titles very shortly. Our first title is the Vault Basic Essentials. We have the schedule for release in July, followed by Workgroup Essentials in August, and Vault Professional Essentials in September. We also have a title specifically for Inventor users, so data management for Inventor users. That one again is slated for release in October. Under the simulation category, we have the Autodesk Simulation Mechanical 2016 title here. For anybody that uses that software, you'll be aware that there wasn't a 2015 version of the Autodesk official training guide for Simulation Mechanical. For that, we worked closely with the product group at Autodesk, and they chose to skip the 2015 version of the training guide, but have released the 2016 version, and that training guide is already available. So that was released a few weeks ago. So again, you see that as a part 1 and part 2. Normally we have MoleFlow on the simulation slide as well, a number of MoleFlow titles. Again, that's one that we work with the product group at Autodesk to distribute the training guides for. So we're just waiting on updates from them as to if and when they plan to release some of those titles. So as soon as we have that information on the MoleFlow titles, we'll add that to the roadmap that we post on our website. And then finally, before I hand it back over to Rhonda, I just wanted to highlight a couple of general changes that you'll see throughout all of our Autodesk official training guides. We try and make a few adjustments to the layout and to how we organize some of the content with each version, just to make the training guides a little more streamlined, a little easier to use, both from the instructor perspective as well as from a student or self-learner's perspective. So a couple of things that you'll see in this 2016 version. Firstly, here on the left-hand side, we've added in a new section up at the front of the book called In This Guide, and this will give you just a little bit of information on how the books are structured, some of the features that you'll find throughout the training guides. So again, if you're teaching this class and you've got users in your class that have never used the ASCENT training material before, this will be handy for those folks to just get them oriented with how we structure the training guides. A big change you'll see throughout the chapters in our training material is how we present the learning objectives. Previously, you would have seen learning objectives at every section within a chapter, and we decided to rewrite those objectives, make them more actionable, if that's a good word. You'll see basically a verb at the beginning of each of the learning objectives now, and we've consolidated them into a more compact group that you'll see at the beginning of the chapter. So you'll start to see that again throughout most of the titles in the 2016 version. We've got a little bit of graphic design that we've incorporated into the first page of each chapter and each section within the training guides. So this one is from our one of our mechanical or manufacturing titles. So it just reuses some of the imagery that we have on our covers. So it just adds a little more interest within the training guides themselves. And then what I'm really happy to see us incorporating here is just some clearer writing styles throughout. We find that users are more and more looking to be able to scan through the material very quickly to find content. So we've changed the writing style in some areas where it made sense to do so. So you'll see a lot more bulleted lists. You'll see a lot more call-outs on graphics to make the content a little bit quicker to read and be able to find things quicker. So we started to do that, make some of those changes in 2016. We'll continue on with later versions in the future as well, but I think we've got a good start on that. So again, you'll see some of that content has been restructured, rewritten. So again, make sure you're looking at that content as an instructor before you go into your first class on the 2016 version, just to make sure you're aware of some of the restructuring that we've done there. And so those are some of the key general enhancements that you'll see throughout the training material for the 2016 version. So with that, Ron, I'm going to hand it back over to you, please.
Great. Thanks, Paul. And I just wanted to mention, if you've got any questions or comments on anything you've seen so far, please feel free to put it into the chat function, and we'll catch up with all the questions at the end once we wrap things up. So I just wanted to briefly review our formats. I know you might be familiar with many of them. We do have a couple of new ones to show you this year. So we have our standard student guides, which are the hard copy format, spiral bound, a couple different sizes depending on where you're located. We do have an ebook version, which is certainly a great green alternative to the printed student guide with a lot of features. And we found that a lot of instructors are, when you're having to travel a lot, you're not having to carry several books with you. You can take those with you instead, and it's great for students as well who are on the go. You might have seen some recent announcements about our new video enhanced ebooks. So these offer the same benefits of the existing ebook, but now we've got some additional benefits of video tutorials, which are populated throughout the guides. And we've got over 1,200 videos now that have been added across several of our 2015 titles. And we're actually working as we speak to add some more to the 2015 versions, and then we will also be adding to the 2016 versions as well with new videos that are coming out. So we're very excited about that new offering. We also have e-learning and video enhanced e-learning, and I'm going to come back to this on the next slides, but this is a great new offering that we have for you as well, so I'll speak to that in just a minute. We have instructor tools. As you can see, there's several great features here, which even if you're using our content for self-study, there's a lot of great information there, answers to the questions, timing information, how long you should spend on each section. So there's a lot of valuable information there. And then our digital site license program is an alternative purchasing option if you are doing high volume training and you're looking for a print-on-demand solution that might give you a little bit more control. That's a great offer or offering for you to try as well. So now we'll talk a little bit more about the e-learning that I mentioned. So we have some standard e-learning bundles, what we call our standard e-learning bundles, which are based on the content from our Autodesk official training guides, and they're packaged into convenient online learning courses. These are available through annual subscription, and they allow you to complete fundamental through advanced level courses really from any location. You just need access to the internet. So as you can see, we've got some prepackaged options for AutoCAD, Civil 3D, Inventor, and Revit architecture. But certainly if these prepackaged versions don't exactly meet your particular training needs, we can very easily customize a package for you. So please, just reach out to us, and our team is very happy to help kind of step you through that process and figure out what kind of bundle might be appropriate for what you're doing as well. And we also are now offering our e-learning bundles with video enhanced versions. So that is a great new option that we have. These are, again, are the same videos that I mentioned that are available in the ebooks, but we actually have them now populated into our e-learning portal called Productivity Now. And the videos are embedded into the course content, so it really gives the user a richer experience as they work through the content, and they then can stop and go out and view some demonstrations of the the topics that have just been taught. Our e-learning bundles have a lot of great features in addition to the new video enhancements. So multi-version courseware, meaning that we can provide to you, if you're working across different versions of the software, we can certainly make that as part of the subscription. We can automatically update it into your subscription if you're, say, going from 15 to 16. There's search functionality, so have an easy topic or keyword search tool that you can use. Our exercise data sets that you might be familiar from the student guides or the ebooks are included as well. There's interactive review quizzes, so a student can answer the chapter review questions at the end of the sections and then instantly receive a score, which is really nice. We also have transcript reports, so there are reporting options, and those are available to users to see how long they spent on each section. Sometimes the managers, need that to kind of generate usage reports for their users, so that's a great tool to have as well. And we can automate delivery of those reports to yourselves or your managers if you need that. And then at the end, students will receive a course certificate once they've received a passing grade at the end of each course, so they'll get a certificate of completion. So that is we have a lot of great features with our e-learning. Some additional services you might not be aware of that we offer are technical writing services. So our technical writers have done all kinds of documentation projects, everything from creating a user guide from scratch to organizing and editing existing materials. They can put best practices or product specifications into a great documentation package. You can be thinking about this if it's, it might be for yourselves. If you're working with a customer that might have these particular needs, this is something we can work through you for your client if that's the particular scenario that you have. Also, our content can be customized in many, many ways. So we can incorporate your workflows or models. We can reorganize it and make it more applicable to your needs. There's, kind of an endless variety of things that we can do in terms of customization. And then finally, if you yourselves are authoring any content and you're looking for a means to distribute it, certainly contact us. We can discuss, the options that we have for making it available through our global distribution system. We'd be very glad to talk to you about that. And finally, our contact information is listed here. Please feel free to reach out to us with any questions or comments. Karina is always got a lot of information going out through Twitter. We've got flash sales and promotions and news, so you might want to follow us there. Our release roadmap is posted on the front page of our website. It's under the featured items section, so you want to watch there. As you've seen, as we've presented today, there's a lot of titles coming, so that roadmap will get updated pretty frequently in the coming weeks and months. Paul mentioned before the webinar series that we have. We also, another great thing is that the questions that we get during each of those webinars are put into blog posts by our authors, so they'll address any Q&A that comes out of those. So that's a great resource for you to have too. And then again, just from everyone, please, thank you for your time today. We appreciate you taking a moment out of your day to join us, and thank you.